Today in the workshop, we're taking a look at the new Arduino IDE 2.0. We'll see how to install and use the new IDE with 6 different microcontrollers, and we'll examine its many advanced features. We'll also expose a few quirks and bugs that exist in this release candidate. We're trying something new today, so welcome to the workshop. Well, hello and welcome to the workshop, and today we are going to be examining the latest integrated development environment from the folks at Arduino, the IDE 2.0. Now, IDE 2.0 is a product that's actually been in the works for a couple of years now, but it recently went to a release candidate version, and a release candidate is the version after a beta but before the production version. So in a release candidate, all of the features have been finalized, but there may be still a few little bugs to work out. And indeed, today I'm going to show you a couple of those little bugs. But we're not going to really focus on the bugs. We're going to focus on the features of this brand new Arduino IDE. But before we get started, I thought it might be a good idea to take a look at where we've come from in the first place. So let's go and examine a bit of the history of the Arduino IDE. There aren't that many microcontrollers that can claim that their history dates back as far as the Arduino, as it is related to Arduino of AVR, who was the king of Italy at the beginning of the 11th century. About a millennia later, a group of 5 students from the Interactive Design Institute in AVR would frequent a pub called the Bar de Re Arduino. It was there that they created a thesis called Arduino, the Revolution of Open Hardware, which they named after their favorite pub. The original product was called wiring, and the IDE was called processing. In 2005, Massimo Banzi, who was one of the 5, forked wiring out as a project called Arduino, and the rest, as they say, is history. The original Arduino IDE was a desktop product that was available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. It had a number of advantages, including the ability to have a boards manager so that it could work with not only Arduino microcontrollers, but other microcontrollers as well. Several years later, Arduino developed a web-based version of their editor. This allowed multi-platform operation not only on Windows, Mac, and Linux, but on basically any machine that had a web browser. And now this has evolved into the Arduino IDE 2.0. It also works on all 3 platforms and has access to the files used by the web browser version. Development of the Arduino IDE 2.0 started in 2018. In 2019, Arduino released the Pro IDE Alpha, which was the initial version of this product. In 2020, the name was changed to IDE 2.0 and a beta version was released. And finally, in late 2021, the release candidate of the Arduino IDE 2.0 was made available. The Arduino IDE 2.0 is based on web technologies similar to those used in Platform I/O. It features a number of advanced features, including code completion. It also has a live debugger, which is a new feature for an Arduino IDE. This IDE not only works with your desktop files, but it can integrate with the Arduino Cloud to use your web-based files as well. So now let's get this IDE installed and take a look at it. Now, of course, the first step in evaluating the Arduino IDE 2.0 Release Candidate 3 version is to install the product, and it installs on all 3 major operating systems. Now, on Microsoft Windows or Mac OS X, the installation is pretty simple. It's pretty well identical to any other Windows or Mac program. But on Linux, the installation is a bit different. It also does not create an icon, and you need to launch the program from the terminal. So let's go and see what it takes to install the Arduino IDE 2.0 Release Candidate 3 under Ubuntu Linux. Installation of the new release candidate for any operating system begins on the Arduino software page. Go down to the Release Candidates section and you'll see a number of download options, 3 of them for Windows, 1 for Linux, and 1 for Mac OS. You'll also be able to download the nightly builds for the latest, greatest release of the product, but we're going to stick with the release candidate. To download the Linux one, click over here and just go and just download it. Now I've already got a copy of it, so I won't go through that right now, but I'll show you what the next step is. The next step is to actually unzip the file in Linux, so go and open it with your archive manager. Do an extract and extract it into a place that you find convenient. I would suggest extracting it into your home directory. Once you've done, you can go into that home directory and you'll see this new directory for the Arduino IDE. Now you'll need to launch the Linux version from the terminal. There is no setup program or icon for it, so right-click on here and do Open in Terminal. If you take a look at the files we have here, you'll see that there's a file over here called Arduino IDE, and this is the one that we need to run. So do a dot and a slash, and then type Arduino IDE. You actually just need to type the letter A and hit the tab key because it's the only file that starts with that. Now hit enter, and the IDE will launch. And this completes the installation under Linux. Remember that under Linux, you're always going to have to launch this from the terminal. Installation on Microsoft Windows is pretty easy. After accepting the license agreement and telling it who you want the product to be used by and selecting a location for it, you just need to wait for the files to copy. Once the file is copied, you can click Finish, and if you have the button checked for Run Arduino IDE, the IDE will start to open. And this completes the installation under Microsoft Windows. Installation under Mac OS is also very simple. After opening the DMG file you downloaded, you'll get a window that allows you to drag the IDE into your Applications folder. Just wait for the files to finish copying, and the IDE is actually installed. Now you can go down into your Launchpad and search for your new IDE icon. Click on it to open it, and give it permission to run. And the IDE will open. In some cases, the IDE will also copy extra files. It didn't do that for me because I had previous versions of the IDE on this Mac. So now that we've installed our new software onto our computer, it is time to take a look at all of its features and capabilities. So let's fire up the Arduino IDE 2.0 and see what it can do. So here's the new Arduino IDE 2.0, and let's go over a few of the features briefly. We will cover them in more detail a little later on in the video. Now, as you can see, it's running a dark theme, which is the default, but as I'll show you in the preferences, you can also pick a number of other themes for the IDE. Now let's go over here to the left-hand side where we see a number of different icons. The first one is the sketchbook icon, and if I click on this and open it, you will see a number of the Arduino sketches that I have already got inside my Arduino library. When this installs, it generally points at your existing Arduino library, so you'll be seeing all of your different Arduino sketches that you have made with the original Arduino IDE. The next icon over here is the Boards Manager, which we will be covering in more detail a bit later on in the video. This allows you to select the core board that you are using for the IDE. This is the library manager where, of course, you can install all of the various libraries. It works in a similar fashion to the one in the old IDE, except now it's an item on the side of the screen. Over here is a debug window. Now we won't be going into the debug features today. It requires an external piece of hardware and a microcontroller suitable for debug, and it'll be the subject of a complete video later on because it's a very detailed subject. And finally, over here on this side we have a search facility, so we can search within our code. We have a number of different options on it as well. We can get the search details and make a more specific search. We can go through and do things like match the case, match whole words, use regular expressions, and include ignored files. And now if you look at the top of the IDE interface, it looks very similar to the old IDE. We've got a verify button and of course an upload button. Over here we have a new button to create a new file. This one that's grayed out has to do with the debug. This is an open button and this is a save button over here. Now if we run over to this side, you'll see this little icon which is for the serial monitor, which opens up on the bottom of the IDE. Now we will be covering the serial monitor in more detail a little bit later on in the video. Over here is where we can select the board that we want to use, and again we'll be covering that a bit later. And finally we have a number of menus at the top which are essentially the same menus as we had in the previous version of the IDE, although there's a few different items in them, and again we will go into those in a few moments. Now, when you first open up the Arduino IDE 2.0, you'll probably want to customize it to your own needs, and you can do that through the Preferences menu. So go into File and go into Preferences. Now, when this opens up, you'll see a number of options, some of them very similar to what we saw in the Preferences window of the old Arduino IDE. The first one is the sketchbook location, and this is the location of your sketchbook, and it defaults to the location of the existing sketchbook you have for the Arduino IDE for the older 1.8 version. So if you're running that, it'll come up with its own location and put that in there automatically. And you can change that if you want to run it into two separate tracks and keep your IDE 2.0 and your IDE 1.8 files in separate places. But for most people, I think you're going to want to keep them in the same place. The editor font size is something I'm going to do right now. I'm going to bump that up a little bit, and that's just because I'm doing this for a video and I want you to be able to see the font on the screen. And so that change will take effect when I hit the OK button down over here. The interface scale basically just shows how big the interface is on your screen, and that can be useful for people using 4K monitors who want to zap that up a bit. There's a number of different themes that it has over here. A dark theme, a light theme, a high contrast theme, and another light theme. And so if you don't like this dark theme over here, you can change it through there. The language is set to English right now, and you can set it to basically just English at the moment, but I'm sure they'll be adding other languages in the future. You can see what you see during a compile and an upload. If you want to see more details, you can check these off for a verbose output. And compiler warnings, you can set the level of warnings that you have on your compiler. Now, there's a number of options down over here, such as auto save, which is a nice option. Check for updates on startup, which you could do. And what the idea behind this one is that the Arduino IDE will eventually become a product that you don't need to keep updating. Instead, it'll check for updates and allow you to update it within it. So that's a nice feature that the old IDE didn't have. Now, there's one that's hidden over here that I would highly suggest that you check, and it's Editor Quick Suggestions. And this is an actual autofill that is going to become very handy while you're coding. So I definitely suggest that you do that. Now, in order to take any of the changes over here, you have to hit OK. And you remember I made a change over here to the editor font size. So I'll hit OK, and as you can see, my font size has increased. And so you're going to want to go into the preferences yourself and set the IDE up to make it ideal for you. Okay, it's time to run our first sketch, and as always, the Hello World sketch in the Arduino world is the blink sketch, and so we are going to run the fascinating blink sketch on an Arduino Uno that I've now connected to the computer. Now we're in the IDE, and of course the first thing we need to do is select a board, and if we click over here we can see that it already sees that I have an Arduino Uno attached, and so we can go and select that if we wish. Now you can also go here to select other board and port if you wish. It'll bring up this menu over here, and what you'll see is the ports that are available, which is this one over here, and we can search for a board. So in this case I'll search for an Uno, and here's an Arduino Uno. And so we've got these both checked off over here, and we can say OK. And here's what we have, an Arduino Uno on the specific USB port that I've connected it to. Now let's go and run the blink sketch, and we can go to the example sketches exactly the same way we did in the older IDE. We just go into File, and we go into Examples. We'll go into Basics, and of course we'll open up Blink. And as with the older IDE, it'll open in another window. Let me just maximize that. We're all familiar with the blink sketch, so I don't think I really need to go over it right now. And what we'll do right now is just basically hit the upload button and upload this to the IDE. And you can see all of our messages down at the bottom. And if you look at my Arduino, we are indeed blinking. So that was very simple and operated probably exactly as you would expect it would. Now the next feature of the Arduino IDE 2.0 that we're going to put to the test is the serial monitor. In order to do that, I've got a very simple sketch over here. This is about as simple as you get. We just start the monitor off at 9600 baud, and then we go down and do a print lin, which will do a carriage return at the end, and we're just printing the text hello world. We're delaying it by 1 second, and then we go and do it again. Now you'll notice as I'm hovering my mouse over elements in the program, I'm getting these pop-up boxes that tell me something about the code that I'm writing, and this is a very useful feature. We've seen it in a number of other editors such as Platform IO, and it's now available in the Arduino IDE, so this is really great. Now we're going to just upload this sketch to the Arduino that I've got attached right now, just an Arduino Uno. So I'll hit the upload button, and we can see in the output down there that it compiled and the output is complete. Now in the new IDE, the serial monitor is not a pop-up window. Instead, it is another window that'll appear down here. And again, that's similar to a lot of other editors, including Platform IO. As a personal opinion, I would have liked the pop-up window, but I mean, that's my own personal opinion. In order to watch the serial monitor, we just go and click over here, and there we go. We're getting hello world, hello world, hello world. And so it's operating as we think it should. It's printing the serial monitor output down over here. We can still go and look at the output by tabbing over there and go back to the serial monitor. And it's as basic as that. So that's the demo of the serial monitor on the Arduino IDE. Now the IDE Release Candidate 3 does have a number of known bugs in it, and I want to show you one of them right now. If you go into the Arduino docs, you will find that they have a number of tutorials for using the new IDE, and one of them is for using multiple serial monitors simultaneously. Now this seems to be a great feature, that you could have two boards connected to your computer, and you could have two serial monitors, one monitoring one board and one monitoring the other one. So I thought it would make a great demo, and they show down here what the demo should look like. You should have, it's very hard to see here, but they've got hello world printing in one of them and hello Mars printing on the other one. However, when I go to do it, I get a different result, and if you look over here at the bottom, I've got two Arduinos, one on one port, one on the other port. One is saying hello world, one is saying hello Mars, but in actual fact, they are both printing the same thing. And if I go and I disconnect one of the computers, this should be my hello world one, you'll see hello Mars on both of them, even though one is set to one port and one just disappears. And so this is a little bit of a bug, I would say. And so I went looking for the answer for that, and I went onto the forum that Arduino has for release candidate 3, and I reported this, and I got this answer back from Arduino saying that this is a known bug. And so this is the bug over here. It's actually with release candidate 3. This was apparently something that was working with earlier candidates, but has now been broken right now. And so this is something to be aware of, that the examples on the Arduino site don't necessarily all work at the moment. However, I'm sure they'll get this resolved, and eventually this simultaneous use of the serial port will be possible. Now, one element in the Arduino IDE 2.0 that's a real improvement over the previous IDE is the serial plotter. And I've got a sketch already loaded into my Arduino that's going to demonstrate the serial plotter. Now, this is one of the demo sketches again from the Arduino examples. And actually, this sketch on the examples had a small error on it. They showed two different sketches, one that used a potentiometer and one that just used a random variable. And I decided to use the random variable one. Now, if you're going to do that, I'll tell you something right now, that this line over here, which says random variable, actually on their sketch said potentiometer. They had forgotten to change it. So it's a very simple fix. You just need to put the random variable over here. Now, we'll take a look on the serial monitor first to see what we're outputting over here. And we have two different variables, one that is fixed and one that is random. And you can see the numbers are changing over there. So let's go and take a look what that looks like on the plotter. Now, to get to the plotter, you go to Tools and then go to Serial Plotter, just as you did with the previous IDE. And the plotter opens up. And as you can see, it's a very nice plotter over here, and it's giving us our values. But one nice feature about it is that now you can hit the stop button. And when you hit stop, you can examine your data. And as you hover over the data, you will get the values of your variables. So that is a very nice feature that they have added to the serial plotter in the new version of the Arduino IDE 2.0. Now, once again, I've discovered another bug in the Arduino IDE 2.0, and it again has to do with serial ports. And this one affects both the plotter and the serial monitor. Now, what I've done over here is I'm running the same sketch that we ran in the last demo just to show the plotter, but I've opened a number of other IDE windows, and I'm in a third window right now of my IDE. Now, if I hit, and I'm connected to my Arduino, and you can see that over here. So if I hit the serial monitor, I should be seeing the data, right? And I am seeing data. However, I've also got this message that says I'm not connected, which is clearly incorrect because I wouldn't be seeing data if I was actually not connected. So this is indeed false. Now, if I go into the serial plotter right now, I get a number of things. First of all, I get some of this garbage data, some variables that don't even exist. And secondly, I've got disconnected written up over here, and there's no way that I can stop this or anything. The run stop button has been grayed out. So this is clearly a bug, and I went back on the forum and reported it. And long story short, they opened up an issue on it after I reported it that says when you open subsequent windows, you get a disconnected indicator. And they go over the problem over here right now, and I'm pleased to say that I actually got my name up in lights over here. So I'm famous for this. Isn't that wonderful? Now, let's be fair. This is a release candidate. There are a number of issues. In fact, right now, if you look, there are 303 open issues on the Arduino IDE 2.0. And of course, before this is a production product, I'm sure the good folks at Arduino will get a lot of these, if not all of them, resolved. Now, one very nice feature of the Arduino IDE 2.0 is the ability to edit the sketches that you already have on the Arduino IoT Cloud. So instead of using the web editor, you can use the IDE 2.0 to edit all of your sketches in one place. Now, you'll have to do that this way. You'll go into your sketchbook folder and you'll see, of course, all of your local files, and these are my local sketchbook, but over here you'll see another icon for my cloud sketchbook. So you go into that, and you need to sign into the Arduino IoT Cloud. So you click the sign in button, and that'll open up a web browser with your sign in page. and you'll click on it to sign in. And it says you're signed in and you can close the browser window. So I'm going to close the web browser. And now, as we can see, we have a number of sketches that are on my Arduino IoT Cloud that are now available to you. Now, you'll notice that if I go and click on one of the sketches, nothing really happens. And over here I have an option to open in the Cloud Editor or to share the sketch. But I don't have any option to open it in a new window. That's not a bug. The sketches haven't been pulled down. You'll notice this other little icon over here. It says Pull Sketch. So if I hit that, it'll pull the sketch. And now the sketch is available to me. And I can click on that sketch. And I can open it up in a new window. And here we have the sketch that was up on the Arduino IoT Cloud available for me to edit over here. And so this is a really nice feature of the new IDE, and it lets you do everything in one place. Now, up to this point, we've been testing the Arduino IDE 2.0 with an Arduino Uno, but of course the product can work with a number of different microcontroller boards, and like the previous IDE version, it has a boards manager to allow you to use non-Arduino boards as well. And so I've got 5 other microcontrollers, 2 of them Arduino ones and 3 of them non-Arduino, and I'm going to show you now how we can use the boards manager to use these devices with the brand new Arduino IDE 2.0. So let's get going. Now here are the different boards that we're going to be using today with the Arduino IDE 2.0. Now, of course, we've already seen the Arduino Uno, but I have 5 other boards here, and they're each wired onto a solderless breadboard, and each of them has an LED and a potentiometer connected to one of the analog inputs. And so, looking at the boards, this is an Arduino Nano. This is the original 8-bit AVR version of the Arduino Nano. This is an Arduino Nano 33 IoT board, so a much more modern version of the Arduino Nano. Here is an ESP32 board. We have a Seeeduino XIAO over here, and over here we have a Raspberry Pi Pico. And we're going to see how we can use our boards manager to program each of these microcontrollers using the new Arduino IDE 2.0. So the first board that we're going to demo with is an Arduino Nano, an 8-bit AVR, and I've got it wired up over here in my solderless breadboard with a potentiometer and an LED connected to it. The potentiometer is connected to analog pin A0, and the LED is connected to digital pin 13. Now, in order to demo this, we're going to use one of the example sketches that comes with the IDE, and this is an example sketch that came with the old IDE as well, and it's called Analog Input. And if you want to find it, just go into File, go into Examples, go into Analog, and do Analog Input. Now, all this sketch does is it reads the value of the potentiometer, and it uses that value to determine the timing for blinking the LED. So it's a pretty simple sketch. And up at the very top, they define the pin they're using for the sensor, which is analog pin A0, and the LED pin at number 13. And we will have to use the same sketch for all of these different processor boards, but on some of them we'll need to change the LED pin. Now, I'm going to upload this to the Arduino Nano and see what happens. We're going to hit upload. It compiles correctly. And then we get these lovely AVR dude messages. And I'm sure if you've used the Arduino IDE for a while, you have seen these, and they're probably hair-pulling messages. If you go online and try to resolve them, you'll get all sorts of people telling you you need to change your cable, etc., etc. But I've found a method, at least with the Arduino Nano, of fixing this. And this applies to my Nano clone. It may not apply to yours, but if you go into Tools and go to Processor and change it from the ATmega 328P to the ATmega 328P with old bootloader, it might work a little better. Let's do an upload, and the upload is now complete. And as we can see, we have a blinking LED, and if I move my potentiometer, I can change the blink rate of that LED. So the sketch does seem to work, and that's one little thing I want to show you. It's not a bug with the IDE. It's just simply the fact that I may be using a slightly older clone of the Arduino Nano. So if you get those AVR dude messages, you might want to give that a try. So let's move on to our next processor. Now our next test is going to be on the Arduino Nano 33 IoT, and the 33 IoT is a 32-bit version of the Arduino Nano, and it also has built-in Wi-Fi, and we've covered this in another episode of the DroneBot Workshop if you're interested in this particular processor. Now the 33 IoT has the same pinouts as the original Nano, and so we've wired our circuit the same with the LED on pin 13 and the potentiometer on analog input A0. So I've got my sketch here, the same one we used before, and we're going to upload that to it. It compiles. And it's uploaded. And now again, I've got a flashing light on the Arduino Nano 33 IoT, and I can change its rate with the potentiometer, so everything seems to work properly. So that was fairly straightforward. And the Arduino Nano 33 IoT is certainly a processor that you can use with the new Arduino IDE 2.0. Now the next board that we're going to be working with is an ESP32WR0OM module, and you could use a different ESP32 module as well. If you do, make certain to check the pinout on your module because it may not be the same as mine. In this case, I've got the analog input going to analog input A0, and I have got the output going to GPIO pin number 2. Now, before we use an ESP32 with the Arduino IDE 2.0, we have to do the same thing we did with the old IDE and install a boards manager. So you'll go into File and you'll go into Preferences, and down in Preferences you'll see additional board manager URLs. You can open this as well to get that in a separate window. And you need to put this string into there. If you need the string, you're going to find it on the article that accompanies this video on the DroneBotWorkshop.com website. Once you put that in, you're going to hit OK, and one thing I have noticed about the new IDE is that it doesn't pick up on it immediately. You have to close and open the IDE, and I don't know if that's a bug or if that's just the way that the new IDE works. After that, you can go into the boards manager and search for ESP32. And I've already installed mine, ESP32 by Expressive Systems, but you probably won't have it installed yet, and you'll have a button down over here to install it. You'll do that, it'll copy a number of files, it takes a few minutes, and then the ESP32 will be set up on your machine. Now you'll need to select the correct ESP32 module. I've got the ESP32 dev module selected, but yours may be another one, and there's a big list of ESP32 modules that you can select. After that, the only thing we need to do is change our LED pin, because we're going to be using pin 2 this time. So I'm going to change that to a 2, and then we're going to load it to the ESP32. Now bear in mind, on some ESP32s you're going to need to press a button in order to make this work, as I did over here. And now the upload's complete. And as you can see, we've got a flashing light whose rate we can change with the potentiometer. So a little bit of work you need to do to get the ESP32 set up, but otherwise it works just fine with the Arduino IDE 2.0. Now another board that we're going to test with the new IDE is the Seeeduino XIAO, and I've got one over here on the breadboard with its LED hooked up to pin number 3. Now, in order to use the XIAO, once again, we're going to need to install a boards manager, and I'll go through the whole process with you this time. Because we already have the ESP32 boards manager, we need to hit this little icon over here, and you can put additional boards managers on separate lines. I'm going to paste the string for the XIAO here. Again, the article on the dronebotworkshop.com website has that string for you. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit OK. Now I want to show you what I mean by restarting everything. If I do this over here and I look for XIAO, I don't see it right now. It isn't there yet. And so what I need to do is I need to close all the instances I have of the IDE, and then I'm going to open it up again. And now we can go into the boards manager. Let's look for it again. And there it is, Seeeduino SAMD boards over here. And I'm going to install that. Now you'll notice it says installed, and the reason it does say installed, which it is because the Seeeduino XIAO was installed on my old Arduino IDE. So all I needed to do was give it that boards manager. The actual product is now apparently installed. So I find that a little bit odd. The install button over here is just for version 1.81, which is the older version, and I certainly don't want to downgrade it. So let's just see if that works. That is a little bit weird. Okay, so we're going to open up our example sketch again right now. We'll go to analog and open up analog input. And we see the Seeeduino XIAO, so it actually does see it. And we'll go down over here and we'll change our LED pin. And as I said, our XIAO is set up with the LED on pin 3. And we'll upload that. And there we go, it's uploaded. We seem to have a flashing LED. And we can change the rate of the LED by moving the pot, so everything works. So that I find interesting is that it does tend to pick up on a lot of the factors of your old Arduino IDE, but in this case it didn't pick up on everything. I still needed to add the board manager into the preferences, but didn't need to do anything after that. Now, if you haven't installed the Seeeduino XIAO, by the way, you would have had to hit the install button over there and install that board manager. But other than that, we can see that we can use a Seeeduino XIAO with the new Arduino IDE. Now the final board that we're going to look at today is the Raspberry Pi Pico, and in the wiring of the Pico I've connected my LED to GPIO pin number 5. Now we're going to need the boards manager in order to install the files for the Pico, so open your boards manager and search for RP2040, which I've done over here. Now you'll see that there already is an RP2040 installed for the Arduino Nano RP2040 Connect. However, what we need is this one below over here, because it says boards included in this package include the Raspberry Pi Pico. So we'll hit the install button here. And as you can see, I've got a number of installations happening, and it says I've successfully installed the Pico. So we can close this. Let's go and select the board and port, and we don't see anything. And this is a really common problem that I've found with the Arduino IDE 2.0. It just suddenly does not see anything on its ports. And really about the only thing you can do over here is restart the IDE and give it another shot. So we'll do that. And we'll open up our sketch again. And there we go, there's the Raspberry Pi Pico. It seems to me a lot of the bugs that I'm seeing in the new Arduino IDE have to do with the serial ports, with the ports. So I do hope that they get some of these resolved, and I'm sure they will before it goes in production. Now we're going to need to change this to 5 to reflect the pin that I've got this on. And we're going to upload it right now. Now, this may or may not work. In some cases, you need to actually pull the cable on the Pico and hold down the boot cell key. But let's just try it right now to see if we get lucky. And it did upload over here, so we're fine. But as I said, occasionally if that doesn't work, you need to hold this boot cell key down, unplug this and plug it back in, and that should get it going. So we've got a flashing LED over here, whose rate that we can change with the potentiometer. And so it does seem to work. So now we've gone through a number of different boards, non-Arduino boards and Arduino boards, that we can use with the new Arduino IDE 2.0. Now, one thing that greatly simplifies your programming task when working with new sensors and devices is the use of libraries. And of course, you can use libraries with the Arduino IDE 2.0. There are two different ways of installing a library into the IDE. You can use the library manager, which is built into the IDE 2.0 and functions in a similar fashion to the one in the previous IDE, or you could download the library from a website or from GitHub in a zip format and install that into the IDE. And I'm going to show you both methods for using libraries right now. Now, as with the old Arduino IDE, we use the library manager to maintain our libraries, and we find it over here on the side. Now, one thing about this IDE is that because it is installed with the same sketchbook as my original IDE, all of the libraries that I have installed in the older IDE are now available to the new one. So that's kind of nice if you're moving from one to the other, and that's just simply because there's a libraries folder inside that sketchbook, and that is where all your libraries are located. So it's naturally seeing it here as well. So let's look for a library that I might not have. Let's type LiDAR. And we see a number of different libraries. Here's one, LiDAR Lite by Garmin. Sounds good. Let's install that library. And we've successfully installed the library over here. And so now let's go and see if we actually see some examples from that library. So examples from custom libraries, let's go down. And here it is, LiDAR Lite. And we've got all the different LiDAR libraries. And we can, if we wanted to, open up one of those libraries, one of the example sketches in the library, excuse me. And we can see it over here. So that works very quickly, and it works very similar to the way that it did with the old Arduino IDE. Now, another thing you might want to do with libraries with your IDE is install one from a zip file. And so I'm going to show you how you do that. And it's actually identical to the way that you did in the previous version of the IDE. You cannot do it directly over here in this library manager. You need to go into Sketch and go into Include Library and then do Add Zip Library. Again, identical to what it was like in the old IDE. So let's go and take a look for a library. I'm going to use this SparkFun Radiohead library. And it says that it has been installed. Now, one thing I've noticed is that if I go over here and I go to examples and I move down over here, I'm not seeing Radiohead anywhere. And I should be seeing it there. And this is another quirk that I've found with the new IDE. If we close the IDE and then we open it up again, and now if we go back in and go to examples from custom libraries, excuse me, and here's the Radiohead library now, and a number of different examples from Radiohead are available to us. So that seems to be something with the IDE. I don't know if it's a bug or if it's just by default, but if you install one from a zip file, you do need to seem to close and open the IDE, but otherwise it installs libraries from zip files just fine. Now, before I conclude this video, I thought I'd kind of summarize some of the feelings I had about working with the Arduino IDE 2.0 Release Candidate 3. I've been using it primarily under Linux, but I've also used it quite a bit under Microsoft Windows. I didn't use it that much under Mac OS. I basically just installed it and verified that it could work. But as I said, with Windows and Linux, I've used it quite a bit, and so I've developed a few feelings about it. Now, first of all, I really do like the design. I like the look and feel of it a lot more than I did the previous IDE. It's hard not to notice that it looks quite a bit like Platform IO, and that's because it's built on the same web-based technologies as Platform IO. One feature I really like about the new IDE is the fact that it integrates with the Arduino IoT Cloud. I think that alone is reason enough for me to switch to it. But am I ready to switch to it? Well, not quite yet. There are, as you see, still a few bugs left in release candidate 3, and I'd like to see those get ironed out before I make it my IDE of choice. Now, of course, this is a video, and you could be watching it way off in the future when the pandemic is over and we all have flying cars and things like that. And at that point, I'm sure this is going to be a mature product that does not require such an odd installation under Linux. There'll just be an icon for it. And all of these features and things that weren't quite working or that were kind of quirky will have been cleaned up. Most of the bugs that I'm seeing right now have to do with the serial ports, and I'm sure they're going to get at it and fix those up. I'd like to actually congratulate the folks at Arduino for doing such a fine job on what is a real formidable task. After all, building a product like this and having it work on every platform, on every operating system, on every piece of hardware is an incredible task, and I think they've done a great job of it. And this, of course, is the purpose of a release candidate, to get this thing out there so that you can test it on all your different hardware. I would advise that you do install this right now. If you install it, it'll set itself up to go to the same sketchbook that you were using with the old Arduino IDE, so you'll have access to all of your old programs and your old libraries. And if you decide you don't like the new IDE, you haven't wasted any of your time, because anything that you've worked on with it is also available to the older IDE. And if you do find some bugs, some ones that I haven't seen on yet or that I haven't presented on this video, by all means report them on the Arduino forum. They're very responsive. As you saw, I reported 2 things and I got my answer back in much less than a day. So they're very quick to jump onto things over there because they are interested in getting this product working. Now, if you're a Platform IO user or a user of another IDE, you may not see a lot of advantage of switching to the Arduino IDE 2.0, and that is understandable. But of course, the ability to latch on to those IoT files, to me, is a very big advantage, and you won't find that in any of the other editors other than the Arduino IDE 2.0. So again, my advice is install the new IDE and get used to it, because of course eventually it will be the only IDE that you can get from Arduino. And so this brings us to the conclusion of our look at the Arduino IDE 2.0 release candidate 3, and I certainly do hope that you enjoyed it. Now, I should mention that there are a few other things that you might run into with this release candidate, or for that example, with any Arduino IDE. Like, for example, if you are using ESP32 and you happen to get a message when you're compiling saying that it could not find the path to Python, and this is a message you might get under either Linux or Mac OS, well, I have the solution for you. Or if you run into a message under Linux saying that your ports don't have enough permission on them, again, I have a solution for that. And these are not unique to this IDE. They affected the old IDE as well. And you'll find the solution for all of that, plus a lot more information about the IDE and even the history of Arduino in the article that accompanies this video. And you will find a link to that article in the dronebotworkshop.com website right below the video. And when you're on the website, or even when you're not on the website, please consider, if you haven't yet, signing up for my newsletter. It gets sent out spasmodically, and it just lets you know what's happening here in the workshop. It's certainly not a sales letter. It's free, and all I need is your email address. I don't even need your name. And if you want to discuss the new IDE 2.0 with a number of other like-minded people, a great place to do that is on the DroneBot Workshop forums. And you'll find the link to the forum below this video as well. And like every one of my videos, there will be a dedicated thread to this video on the forum, which will magically pop up at the same time that their video has been released. And finally, if you haven't yet, please do me the honor of subscribing to the YouTube channel. I love getting new subscribers and would really appreciate it. All you need to do, of course, is to hit the little subscribe button, and when you do, also click on that bell notification. And providing that you've had notifications enabled on your YouTube, and remember, they're not enabled by default, you have to do that specifically, but if you've done that, then you will get a notice every time that I create a new video. So until we meet the next time, please take good care of yourself, please stay safe out there, and I will see you again very soon here in the DroneBot Workshop. Goodbye for now.